And Krishna, if you're ready. Our next speaker is another Inc. fellow. She's really, really incredible. At 19, she was the youngest Indian woman to climb Mount Everest. And since then, she's climbed almost every major mountain in the world and broken almost every major record. So she'll be here to share, some of her thoughts. And we're very lucky to have her because she's just come to Bombay to be with us. She's on her way to Uttarakhand, which is very personal to Krishna because that's where she learned mountaineering. And she's now on her way to help the relief efforts there. So Krishna, thank you for being with us.
Good evening. So, like he said, I'm on my way to Uttarakhand, in fact, tomorrow to do some relief work. And obviously, it's my home ground. It's where I learned everything that I am today. Also, I've just recently come back from Mount Makalu. Mount Makalu is the 5th highest mountain in the world. And it was an expedition that, you feel like you've climbed Everest, and then what do you do after that? Or a lot of people always ask me that, you've climbed the highest mountain in the world, what more can you do now? And it's not about the height that we go to, it's about the journey that we go through to try to reach there. And Mount Makalu for me has been my most incredible climb. It is the 5th highest mountain, but to climb it, personally, I felt it was 10 times tougher than Everest, 10 times longer than Everest, 10 times colder than Everest, and 10 times tougher. Makalu is one of the mountains where technical climbing makes a big difference. We've got rock, we've got blue ice, whereas on Everest we have snow and rock, which is a little easier to follow. This was the view of Mount Makalu when I had summited Everest, and I remembered looking at it and thinking, oh my God, that looks taller than Everest, even if I was standing above it. And when I was on Makalu this year, I could see Everest from there, and that's how Everest looked from Makalu. One of the most incredible views I'd had on Makalu was when I was on the summit push, just about to reach summit. We were on the glacier at about 7,900 meters. It was pitch dark. There was no moon in the sky, and yet the peaks glowed in this. If you can look at the down. In this fluorescent blue color. And I looked at Mount Everest, which was on my left. From Makalu, it's a crow-fly distance of 20 kilometers. And I could see tiny lamps trying to climb it. And I could see lamps on the south side, and I could see lamps on the north side. And I turned to my fellow climber who was sitting next to me, sort of falling asleep because it was like 3:30 in the night. And I said, dude, look, there are lamps on Everest. And he was like, oh, okay, I see them. I'm like, do you think they can see us from there, because we're also all sitting with lamps. And he goes, they're climbing Everest. They don't care who's on Makalu. And we were like, okay. But even though Everest is so famous for the kind of climb it is, and because it is the tallest mountain, over here we see Mount Makalu. This is the last summit push, and this was the blue ice. Blue ice is ice that is so hard that it's almost like marble. So when we walk on it with our crampons, there's hardly any grip we're getting. And this year there was so much wind throughout the season that it blew off all the snow from the mountain. So all we had was rock and ice. And we fix ropes to actually move ahead so that it's safer for us to climb. And by the time we reached the French couloir, which is the last bit of rock that you see, we had ran out of rope. The gradient there is something like something between 65 to 75 degrees. And we knew that we could have managed to climb up, but in that condition, in that height, And after walking for about 18 hours through the night, we figured that if we summited and we didn't have rope to come back, we would just slip off and not be able to come back home ever again. And that is when we took the decision to say, you know what, I think we should turn around here. This is the Makalu La. This is how our last bit was. And this is where we turned around. The last bit of rock that we had had a discussion we had amazing, very, very great climbers with us at base camp. And we'd had this discussion at base camp before we'd even ventured out to the summit push, was that how does it feel to turn around when you've spent maybe 3 years planning an expedition like Mount Makalu, which is a 8,000 meter peak, and how much you invest in it, how much you train for it. And when you have to take that decision, when you're 100 meters to the summit and you say that, okay, I have to turn around. I had never had that experience before, but we had very, very senior mountaineers with us, and one of them said that when you take that decision, whatever decision you take, whether it is to turn around, whether it is to go ahead, you will be 100% sure that this is what you want to do. And when we stood there, you know how there's always a greed to just get that last bit, you know, especially when you've put a 99% to reach 100% and you have to walk all the way back and again start from zero. You just feel like, oh, I'm here, I should just finish it, you know. But when we were actually there and we saw what conditions we were in, there was not a percent of greed in any one of us to say, no, let's just go and do this. You know, we'll figure it out on the way back. And I felt, at that moment, I felt very proud of myself to have been strong enough to take that decision to turn around and not be stupid and lose my life, because the mountain will always be there. And if I'm alive, I can always go back to climb the mountain. Coming back to the Uttarakhand relief work, as mountaineers sometimes, especially on Makalu this time, it was one of the longest expeditions I've been on. It was in a complete of 2.5 months. We stayed, the first mountain that I'd summited in a course as a training peak was a peak called Draupadi Ka Danda. It was 5,670 meters. The base camp of Makalu was 5,670 meters, and we stayed above that for 1.5 months. And a lot of things go through your head in that time. And one of the times I felt that, you know, it's great. I love climbing mountains, and this is one of the things that I want to do forever and as long as possible. But I want to do something more meaningful. I want to do something that will actually make a difference to the world that we live in a more practical, in a more organic way, you know. I think when I came back, we were so weak from the entire climb and of staying at that altitude. I mean, we had no energy in our bodies at all. And with a skill set that we have as mountaineers, the only thing that is missing today in the relief work or the rescue work that's going on in Uttarakhand is that there are very few mountaineers that have gone up there to help. The biggest problem right now we have in Uttarakhand is that there are a ton of NGOs that are sitting there. There are thousands and thousands of kilos of food that has reached Uttarkashi, that has reached Rishikesh. But there are no expertise to actually take that food up to the villages that need it. The army is doing their bit, and obviously areas like Kedarnath and Gangotri are well looked after. But other than these areas, there are small, small valleys where there are 20 villages, where there are 5 villages high up in the mountains that have been cut off because the road is completely destroyed. So we have collaborated, just some professional climbers, we've all collaborated, about 15 of us. It's not a very big team, but we're planning to go set up base in Uttarkashi and split up from there in teams of uh, uh, about 20 people each. We will each lead a team of 20 porters, carrying the food that these NGOs that have already got all the food supplies in these areas. We just plan to take it up and hopefully make sure that the villages that need this help and need this help, and the teachers, most of my teachers have come from these areas. So for me, it is a very, very personal thing, and I would like to say that anyone that can support in any way, whether it is personally coming, you have any expertise, we're actually looking at organizers that can help set up base camp. I mean, we have all the climbers that we need, but we don't have anyone to organize all of us and sort of take care of base. So any way that y'all can support us, y'all can go on to For Uttarakhand and support us in every way you can. Thank you.
No, I just want to share with you that I'm really glad some of the Ing community has come forward. For Krishna came and talked to us and said, for every 10 days they set up camp, that they want to be there for about 2 months. For every 10 days, it costs them about 3 lakhs to do this. So we had Shantanu Moitra, Swanand Kirkire, a bunch of people here who all she met at Inc. and they call themselves Bavras, and they've raised the money for her to actually go on Makalu, and also right now for the next 10 days for them to go, they just raised the money and gave it to her. So I really want to thank all of them and wish Krishna great success.